Explain like I'm 5. What are the checks and balances that prevent a military coup in the USA? Former U.S. Marine here. The Marine Corps is a very conservative institution. But respect for the Constitution and an understanding that we don't do politics is hardwired into us. We might groan about serving under knucklehead commander-in-chief. But our job is to train. And sometimes fight. Nothing prevents a coup anywhere except for people not wanting to perform it. And coups are done when people want change really badly. The US is stable. As flawed as it may be on an individual's level. It's the wealthiest and has the wealthiest military. Specifically. So, money, I would say. The fact that the military is comprised of real people who don't want to see some dictator take over their country. When you see military coups in other countries that are successful, it's generally because the military is on the side of the person doing the coup. USA Army are too big and paying their general really well that the risk-reward of a coup is not worth it. Nothing except a long tradition of being a democratic republic. A military coup means that the system itself is being tested. Either might will make right or the rule of law will prevail. Nothing about checks and balances will help prevent a military coup. Checks and balances are important and will help prevent a soft coup or election fraud coup. But if people are willing to use force to get their way, the law is just a piece of paper. The sheer scale of bureaucracy. Aside from that, nothing. The first part of the oath of enlistment is as follows. I state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. If you are universally hated to the point of being considered an enemy, it doesn't matter how high up the chain of command you are. They will come for you. The professionalism and loyalty of the people in whose hands you put guns. If you feel like that's not enough, then don't put a gun in their hands. The only not mentioned so far is the chain of succession. If the POTUS, VPOTUS, etc. go down, the Secretary of Defense is in that line. But if he is leading the coup, it would skip to the next person. A military coup would need to scoop up a whole lot of people to interrupt that chain. The Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution ensures there is always an armed and standing well regulated militia of the people to fend off any government overreach or military tomfoolery. At least, that's what its written intent is. They say one of the reasons for this is that anyone can hold firearms in the U.S. So a coup would be very hard to implement since you'd need to stop a potential civil unrest apart from the other things mentioned. Obviously, it's a multi-factor issue. They're already in control. The coup happened pretty much when Kennedy got the bullet to the brain. Ever since then the war machine controls everything. The easiest answer is that quality of life is too high over much of the US, that a coup is so unlikely that much of the armed forces never even need to consider it. Coups happen in broken and failed states where the rule of law isn't respected or taken seriously. The American government has a firm control over the country. Just the fact that people don't run red lights indicates that. A military coup. An armed and unruly populace. Absolutely nothing. Duke's assassination was a coup. We have had several soft coups since that. It's not worth the trouble. You just need to wait 4 years at most to vote out the current president. If the military wanted to change the POTUS, it could create its own political party and ask its members to vote for them. would have to get every state on board, as they all have control over the military establishments within their borders, or could have control very quickly, so it would be difficult on grounds that a large portion of the population doesn't agree with. The military benefits financially from the US's and the world's stability. To upset the status quo would bring them no good, because every member, enlisted and officer, takes a sworn oath to protect against enemies both foreign and domestic. And you gotta do some pretty significant mental gymnastics to not believe you're the enemy if you're corralling your own people. Political neutrality for a military coup. And, as seen on the 6th of January, incompetence for a civilian coup. I'm reading all these answers and looks like a coup has nothing to do with civilians. Got it. Disarm all of them. Genuinely interested but ignorant Scott here. At what point does the whole protecting against tyranny from the government kick in? As an active member, I wondered about this a lot on the 6th of January. I tried to figure out what it would look like from our standpoint if we were used to push the narrative. I couldn't, and still can't, imagine a scenario where everyone would be on board and support what we knew or believed to be an illegal order. Civilian control of the military is the keystone. Without it, the military can fail to become cognizant that it serves at the direction of the government, rather than the other way around. Separation of duties and the rotational nature of deployments seems like they'd be the main culprits. Hard to amass enough loyalty in an area if you're going to be reassigned across the world in a few years. Economic and social stability are the strongest safeguards against a military coup. When your military leaders are comfortable and your population has little reason to sympathize with a military takeover, it's just not gonna happen. The sheer size of the US military, the fact that it's so large that it's really a collection of a half-dozen big militaries with substantially different missions, also makes the logistics of a coup considerably more complicated than with a smaller, more consolidated military. Things that haven't been done before seem strange and nearly impossible to occur. Think 9/11. Once they occur, the conversation will go, when will it happen again? Thinking about that, I guess there would be more likely a new civil war than a military coup in the US. Something like California separates from the US or the South from the rest. A similar question was posed somewhat recently, and one of the commenters had a very salient point. What is the purpose of a military coup? To seize power. Yes. You can go to boot camp and serve in the military for X years. Or in the US of A. You can print some posters and run for office. If you were sufficiently politically ambitious, you would just run for office directly. How much of the stability in the US is due to the military being well funded and treating active members really well? A coup seems unlikely when everyone has something to lose. I always assumed that's why you never see a US politician say no to more military spending. Got to keep that business fed just well enough to keep powerful people from colluding. The real checks and balances against a coup comes from the composition of the military itself. The individuals that enlist and/or receive commissions in it. The American people. And by consequence, members of the military are far too varied and diverse to be unified around one common cause. The closest our current society has come to being truly unified was when the Twin Towers were destroyed. There would have to be dissatisfaction on an unimaginable scale centered solely on the powers that be in order for a coup to happen.